Hi, Robyn here. I wanted to pop on before this episode started to let you know that I just hung up with our next guest, and we had a bit of an issue, and I've done my best to cut the hardest parts of that issue out. But Pam is completely deaf, and we were using Zoom, and it's closed captionings, and it kept dropping me. So she could read her voice, but she couldn't read what I was saying. So we weren't able to go back and forth with questions. This will be a shorter episode and you'll notice some delays. So apologies for that. Sometimes the best intentions with technology just simply doesn't work. Enjoy the episode for its short, quick, and hopeful story that she shares. Hi, welcome to Ketobiography. I'm your host, Robyn Dobbins. For 16 years, the medications that helped her manage multiple sclerosis also pushed her into type 2 diabetes. When she hit an A1C of 9, she knew she had to make a change. In October of 2020, she turned to a keto lifestyle, dropped her A1C to 5.5, and began reclaiming her life. Today, she bridges an often overlooked gap using American Sign Language to coach deaf and hard of hearing people in keto, health, and wellness, making life-changing information accessible to this community. Please welcome Pam Groth to Ketobiography. Hello, Pam, and welcome.
Hello. Hi, thank you for
So,
having me.
oh, I'm so glad that you're here. We've gone back and forth a couple of times about getting a date scheduled, and so I'm very happy that we finally got this on the calendar. So I want to mention to the audience here that
Yeah.
Pam herself is deaf. So we're using a program so she can read what I'm saying and I can hear what she's saying, but there may be a small delay. So those of you who are noticing a delay, that is why. But I am overjoyed that this is even possible. When you introduced me to this on Zoom, I was floored and actually quite thankful. My daughter took 2 years of ASL in high school, and I wish she would have continued with it. It is a language that more people need to know, and I sure you will speak to that. But I'm sure there's times in life where it's hard to communicate, just simply hard to communicate because people don't know it. And I don't know, I think it's something that everybody should have some experience in. And I'm saying that as somebody who doesn't have experience other than my daughter took it for a couple years in high school. So we can talk about that, but I also want you to share your story. You were recommended by a previous guest, Dory Martin, and she says she had that you have an incredible story of healing or and you've given me a little bit of that about going down in your A1C, but I know that there's more to share. So I'm just going to turn it over to you to share what you want to tell us all about.
Okay, thank you. I was thinking about how I wanted to talk about my journey. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I was 28 years old. And back then, it was like in the early 90s, I believe, there wasn't very much to go on in terms of internet research and all of that because it wasn't out there that much. So when my neurologist told me that I had MS, he gave me a pamphlet and said, read this and go home and take these medications. One of the medications that he gave me was prednisone, and I took prednisone for, I want to say 16 years, and that medicine alone made me gain a lot of weight, and it caused me to have type 2 diabetes. And it took a long time for me to get the doctors to acknowledge that. And when they did, it was kind of like a really upsetting time because all of this could have been prevented. But, I had to find something that would help me with my MS because there I I wasn't walking well, and I would have um episodes to where my left side would be paralyzed, basically. So my arm was like this all the time. Um, I couldn't walk very well. I was very tired, extremely tired, and I noticed that when I ate certain foods, the um the MS would react really badly to that. So, and then when I got type 2 diabetes, I became frustrated because now I have two chronic diseases and I just didn't know how to um handle that. So, I went to college and learned a lot about nutrition and what food does to your body. And one of the things that I learned about food itself was carbs. Carbs, whenever I eat a lot of carbs, my nerves, um, if they become very painful. I can't, like my hands, I can't touch things. I can't type. I can't, there was just, and it always reflected back to carbs. So, I managed a diabetes deaf support group on Facebook, and I met this woman who we became friends off, and she suggested keto, and I did not understand what keto was. I just didn't understand how it would affect my A1Cs. So, I joined this group for 6 weeks, and it was called Keto for Carboholics. And I joined this group, and I lost 41 pounds in 6 weeks. But one of the things that I learned about this particular diet was that she used a lot of dairy. And dairy like cheese, cream, milks, that kind of thing. And dairy for MS is it causes problems. It makes the MS react very badly to it. So I have a journal that I keep about food and me, and I just continued with the keto plan. And I got my A1Cs at the time I joined the group. My A1Cs, I believe at the time were 9. That was high. And so my primary care physician put me on insulin. And I had to fight about that because I really didn't want to be on insulin. But I did. I went on insulin, and I lost the weight, and then the insulin units that you're told to take, it was going down. It was like from 10 units to 5 units to 3 units. And I was getting really excited because I was hoping that I would get weaned off the insulin and then eventually get weaned off of the diabetes medication. Excuse me. Um, I'm still struggling to this day with my health because the medications that I'm given for my multiple sclerosis make my sugars go up. And when my sugars go up and when I have to take the medication for a while, they continue to stay up there high, and it's really hard to manage the diabetes portion of it because I have to take the MS meds. And I was on a couple of injections, and it always made my sugars high. So I was the doctor said I couldn't be off insulin, so I still did keto. I just decreased the amount of cheese and dairy and stuff like that. The only thing I was really using was cream, heavy cream for my coffee, and that was like 3 tablespoons. But all of the other stuff like cottage cheese, yogurt, all of those things I didn't do. I learned to make my own keto bread, my own foods that I loved because I knew that if I didn't have those things that I wouldn't stay on keto. So, I I'm still working on me, with my journey, but I'm also helping from what I learned in keto with the deaf community because there's not a lot of programs out there for deaf people in American Sign Language. And I sign, so I'm able to educate and teach people what food is about and how it affects your body. I also coach, and one of the things I have to like put a little moment out there that I've been coaching this woman for this is the third year. She's 428 pounds. And I worked on her keto. I worked on the keto plan with her for this is my third year, and the last 2 years, up to 2 years, she lost. She's now 228 pounds, so she's lost a lot of weight. I'm so proud of her, and if I could brag, I'm proud of myself because I taught someone how to do keto and understand what food does to you. Sugars, bread, pasta, all of those things that we love. And it's been a very interesting journey for her. So this is her third year, so she's asked me to continue coaching her. So I'm hoping that she'll get down to her weight soon. But people contact me and I just spread awareness about how carbs affect your sugars and try to explain how keto is really important with diabetes management and how important it is to understand that when you eat a lot of carbs, it affects your body. And I think that's about it for on my part. I also want to say one thing though. This whole food journey that I've been on was because my mother was diagnosed with salivary gland cancer. And that's how I got started on food research. Really trying to find ways to help my mom with her cancer because the tumors that were in her mouth are growing so bad that it came to the point where she couldn't actually put food in her mouth. So it ended up having just smoothies or ice cream or whatever. But she is why I continued with this food journey because I'm a strong believer in food is your gut is what controls your immune system, and everything that you put in your mouth goes into your gut. And if it's not healthy, you're not going to be healthy. And so that's what I tell people. And I get some resistance and I get some, oh, really? I didn't know that. So, um, But my journey still continues. I will continue to do this. It's just that as I go, I have to make changes to my keto diet because it affects my MS in some ways. But all in all, my carb limit is 20 grams, and I eat my proteins, I eat my fats. I keep the calories where it needs to be. I really, really follow my macros. Um, that's how I manage my health. So,
Well, let's back up a second. Can you
okay.
tell me more about multiple sclerosis? Like, is you said you're a neurologist, so is it considered a neurology issue or is it a muscular? I always thought it was a muscular issue, but it's a brain communication issue.
Um, I think it's a myelin issue. When your myelin tissues surround your nerves on your brain and your spine, when that's damaged, that attacks your body to where your muscles don't cooperate. They don't work normally. And when you're having an episode, you hope and pray that when you go into remission, that those nerves that are being affected heal. And often they don't. They have scar tissue around them. And once there's scar tissue, the nerves can't connect. They can't communicate. So it affects your vision, your hearing, your movement. I became deaf because of the MS. When I was first diagnosed in 1991, my left ear, it just quit. I couldn't hear anything. And then in January of 2020, after so many years, I lost my hearing in my right ear, so I no longer hear at all. I can't even hear just how, I don't know if you know how, but some people can hear just a little bit, like a loud noise, or I hear absolutely nothing. I don't think it's going to come back. So I think those nerves that surround that area that connect to the brain are damaged. But it is a myelin tissue that once it's affected, it gets attacked and you have an episode. And if it doesn't, if you go back into remission, there's a chance that it becomes damaged. It won't come back. So
So have you seen that? I mean, you did keto because of the diabetes, but have you seen that the that diet has improved anything for MS? Or,
yes, the neuropathy that I have, it's really hard because multiple sclerosis has a symptom that's neuropathy, and diabetes also has a symptom that has neuropathy. And when I see my doctors, they're always forgetting that I have MS. And they're saying that your neuropathy is so bad because of your diabetes, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I've had neuropathy since 1991. That's never changed. Um, so with keto, if I eat, okay, I'll give you an example. If I decide to have a slice of bread, what happens is that the carbs in that slice of bread is it going on top of my allotted 20 carbs that I eat every day. So when I eat bread, or if I have something like a little bite of pasta or whatever, if we go out to eat or whatever, those carbs make my neuropathy escalate so that by the time I get home or when I'm resting at night, I'm in so much pain that I can't sleep. And when I can't sleep, and I already MS has a symptom of fatigue. So if I can't sleep, that's a double whammy on the fatigue. So it's just a vicious cycle that just keeps going. So I have to be careful. So the keto keeps that balanced. It keeps me balanced. I'm aware of what I'm eating, and I think that's really important for anyone, actually anyone that's has a chronic disease, is to really, you need to really pay attention to the food you eat because it does affect your health in so many ways.
Yeah, I agree. You need that baseline of a good diet. And if medicine is required or if anything else is required, I get it. However, if it won't work the same if you don't have that good baseline food going into your
Right.
body. Well, okay, so I was just wondering if you learned ASL after you first started losing your hearing or if you already knew it.
My parents are deaf.
Oh,
I'm a
okay.
coda, a child of a deaf adult. So I'm lucky in a lot of ways, because I think if I would have lost my hearing not knowing ASL, I would have really struggled and had a hard time. I mean, I'm struggling now because the things that I miss because I can't hear, it's not as severe as it would be for someone that just suddenly lost their hearing.
Yeah, well, that's why I was asking that question because it's not easy. It's not easy to learn, I think, later in life. So I guess in a way you were very fortunate that that's how you grew up, since that's what ended up being your world as well. So that is this discussion, though. This is what I'm really curious about, is the community that you serve. How do people find you, and um, do people who need a specific service like yours where you're able to communicate in a different manner, do, do they have things that are happening with them that the keto diet can help them maybe see progress of a different direction? Like, you said there's some nerve damage. Are they able to make repair in a way where maybe some of their hearing might return, or any of the problems that they may have? Are they seeing any changes?
The people that reached out to me from the Deaf Diabetes Support Group on Facebook, basically the questions that they were asking me were like, well, why does the carbs make my sugar go up? Why am I having such a lot of problems with the neuropathy? Um, these are things that doctors neglect to tell people, or they just don't have enough time in their visit to explain to a deaf patient, because I think it's because now that I'm deaf, I can say this because it's happened to me, is that I have an app on my phone that allows me to talk with the doctor back and forth without using an interpreter. And there are some out there that get very impatient with me because we have to go back and forth. We can't override each other like a normal hearing conversation. And so I understand when deaf people ask me these questions, because it has happened to me. They get really flustered and they get really frustrated because I either have to ask them to repeat what they're saying or explain it to me in a language that I can understand. Um, some of the things that I've helped people with are, I've had, I think 10 people in that group got their A1Cs to go down from high numbers like 13, 14 down to like 8 or 7. And they were thrilled. I mean, just absolutely thrilled. And it's because I taught them how to count your carbs. You know, eat more protein. What is protein? They don't even, some of them didn't even know what protein was. So the education that I provided for them educated them so that they knew these are the things that I can have because I'm diabetic. I can't have, I can have, but I shouldn't eat cereal, pasta, right? You know, rice and all that. Um, it's very notorious in the deaf community to go to buffet style places, and I just go, oh my gosh, please don't go there. Some of them are like Chinese buffet style where they just pile on the fried chicken and the breaded chicken and the salt and everything that's in there. And so when they contact me and say, I don't feel well, my sugars are like 230, and I'm like, what did you eat? Because, and they're like, well, I went to a Chinese, but that's a, you know, so I taught them you can have those things, but grilled chicken, grilled steak, steamed vegetables, So that's how as far as solving the neuropathy in their health problem, I never got that far. Some of them just never contacted me again. So I don't really know. I just know from my standpoint that if I eat a lot of carbs, I'm in excruciating pain. So,
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess that was a somewhat ignorant question on my part because I missed where you had said you were part of the deaf diabetes support group. So there's diabetes is the issue that you guys are speaking about in that community. You just all also happen to be deaf. That's just a side note. And I guess I missed that and I sound like a I don't know.
oh, it's fine.
It was just not a good question, so I apologize for that. But I do think that this is a bigger conversation and that it is I guess tell me more about this piece here because I have issues with my own communicating with my own doctor just about being in this lifestyle like that in and of itself is difficult to talk about and I'm having a communication that doesn't involve someone having a disability so how much harder is that and do people in the community not end up not getting the care that they need because of that?
That's a big issue for, um, it's sad. It just makes me furious that it's a big issue for the deaf community and I had a couple of, I used to be a deaf medical advocate. So I used to go with when I was still walking, I used to go with some of my clients to their doctor appointments, and they would get so frustrated because they could not understand what the doctor was trying to tell them. And when the interpreter would interpret for them, and they would try to ask the doctor what it is that he wanted them or he or she wanted them to do, they would get rude. Very rude, I thought. And so that's where I had to step in and say, you need to come down a notch and work with them because they are trying. I always tell people use your patient portal. If you leave your doctor's appointment and you're not satisfied with what you learned today or what you asked and you were not able to get the response that you were expecting to get, email them and continue to email them until you get an answer. And if this is a continued pattern with your doctor and you having this unsatisfactory communication issues, I would find another doctor. You got to be able to work with your doctor. They need to understand that it's your life. You only have one life. And if you can't get what you need, then they are not for you.
I agree wholeheartedly that that applies to absolutely everyone. You have to be able to get along with your doctor, and if you can't, it's time to make a change. I do, though, know that that's very difficult for a lot of people. Some people don't have that kind of access, but if you can make the change to find a doctor that's going to work for you, or find an advocate. I mean, you working as an advocate, I'm sure helped a lot of people.
Yes. I need to find an advocate for me because I think that when I'm working on my health, trying to eat right, cook, just try to stay healthy, there are other things that I have to take care of that it's exhausting. And because I was an advocate, I know it's nice to have. You have that backup. You have that support. Um, it's really important. And I always tell people when they reach out to me, if you need help, if you need somebody to talk to, text me. I'm here. Talk to me. If you need me to call somebody, I'll call for you. I'll help you, I'll help you with your diet. But the number one thing I always tell everybody, you have to take care of what you're eating. You can't just be eating things and think that everything's going to be okay, because it's not. You have to really pay attention to what you're eating. So,
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about that earlier. It's the foundation of everything else. All right, we're testing. Is it working? I
yes.
don't know what the sweet spot is, but apparently if I hold my head just like this, nope. Oh,
This is
you
going to
guys.
be a strange interview for people to watch.
For those of you listening, we are trying to make closed captioning work on Zoom, and it's being a little bit fickle. So we may need to call this a little earlier than I would normally call it, but I don't want to leave our conversation without asking how people can find you. I know you have a website that's Sister Niches, I think it is.
Yes.
You could, and I know you're an artist, so I was stalking you on Facebook a little
I
bit. So
am reachable by that website. It's www.sisterniches.com. We also have an email, which is info@sisterniches.com. Um, once I get to know somebody, then I'll give them my text number, because that's really the only way I can communicate with the hearing world. I rather know the person before I give them my cell, because then I'll have these weird texts that come in late at night, and I don't want that. So,
no, nobody wants that. But I just wanted to make sure we got that out there. It sounds like you're doing some amazing work for the community that you're involved in, and I'm just very thankful that you're helping people in that manner. And it's also, you know, going from 9 to normal and your A1Cs is incredibly impressive. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for helping people with their own journeys. And thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
I think we finally got the closed captioning to start working, and I closed it out. How does that happen? So if it's still working, is there any final thought that you want to add before we close out?
Okay. The closed captioning quit again. So, um, all right. Well, if you need me for anything, just email me.
All right. I'm sorry that this ended up not working as well as we had hoped, but thank you so much for joining me today.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.